Welcome, everybody. Welcome. If this is your first child coming into the Hills, welcome to the Viking family. Welcome to Viking Nation. It's great to have you here tonight. Normally, I'm so loud, and I could probably say the same for my assistant principals, that we wouldn't need a mic, but I know we're recording tonight, and just in case someone in the back can't hear us, we'll use the mic for you tonight. So we're going to kind of give you an overview. We're going to talk about the rotating drop block. We're going to talk about all the supports, who to contact if you need to. If at the end of this you have a remaining question about anything, the schedule, anything else, counselors are going to be around. Our amazing counseling staff are here tonight. They'll stick around to answer any questions that you have. And myself, the assistant principals, will stick around. If you don't have any questions and you have a child that's playing in the band, in the marching band, or the football game, and you just need to get out of here, that's fine. But we'll stick around until we get everybody's questions answered by the end of the night. So we're excited to have all of your children come in tomorrow for the orientation. Based on previous years, their number one concern is probably walking the building and just knowing their schedule before day one, and we'll make sure we do that. One of the things you'll see here at the Hills is we have amazing students. They take real ownership of the things we do here. We have an amazing senior, Will Lanza, that's recording for us, that's going to put it out on YouTube. And tomorrow, you're going to see some amazing students here at the Hills, our peer leaders, that are kind of going to give them the lowdown of the school, give them tips and everything, and they're the best of our school, and they do amazing things. So they help new students when they move into the district. They help freshmen, and I think it's always easier when there's a peer that you can just grab in the hallway and say, "Where's D39?" As opposed to adults. And we have amazing peer leaders, so they'll be here tomorrow as a support, along with our admin and our teachers and everything else. So they're in good hands. So again, I'm Matt Thompson. I'm the principal at the Hills. Chris Keegan here with me. Gianna Otto. And Tricia Morcillo will be talking to you about everything guidance, and our guidance staff is here as well to meet with you here tonight. So I'm going to start with this photo because it's one of my favorite photos. It was taken by our lead social studies teacher, Steve Betchler, and it really kind of is one of my favorite moments. It was a fall night. We had won the football game, and our marching band was up in the stands playing our alma mater, and our football players come over, and they stand in front of the band while the alma mater plays. Hopefully we'll see this picture tonight. And our student body all kind of sings the alma mater, and everybody's there. So, at the bottom, you kind of see three themes that I think you'll see. I came from a large regional district of about 3,000 students, and that's where my kids go right now. And my first year here in 2019, we had a pep rally in December. And everybody was in the gym, and everybody was cheering. It was like great. And we fit the whole community in that gym, and there was just such a tremendous feeling that I looked over at our AD, Todd Ricker, and I go, man, this is the perfect size. This is a great place. And that's one of the things that I feel like we got robbed of the last couple of years with COVID and hybrid and virtual, that you kind of get that feeling and that sense now that we have that back, and it's great. So one of the things that jump out to me, and during interviews, people would say, what's special about the Hills? And some of the people that interview with us, and there's a common theme of community, and you'll see a lot of teachers here that went here. You see a lot of community members that come back here. We have a Hall of Fame breakfast during homecoming, and all those people that come back here. So there's a tremendous ownership, and that doesn't always happen everywhere, I can tell you. Been in a few districts, and that's not always the feeling, and that's a great thing about being here at the Hills. Support, again, we're a perfect size. So we're going to go through all the supports that they have. Not everything's going to come easy, and we have a lot of supports there that are available to them. And I think one of the things that you're going to hear tonight is that and it's great that you are here tonight, because this is going to be a relationship for the next 4 years. And it's the school and you having the same message to your children, and both of us communicating together as a team to make sure that they get through those 4 years successfully. All right, so I have a few teens myself, and it's always nice to know that you have a relationship on the other end that you can pick up and kind of problem solve when anything comes up. So the support, and then the other piece of this is the excellence. Not just academic excellence, but athletic excellence. And if you watch our Instagram and our Twitter page, that you'll see that there's academic decathlons that we're winning. There's marching band regional competitions that we do a tremendous job and we place in, and it's just, we do a great job here. For a small school, we have a lot of achievement and a lot of excellence, and I'm sure your kids will be part of that. Overview of what we'll talk about here tonight. We'll talk about what your son or daughter may experience tomorrow at the freshman orientation, what we'll go over with them and what they'll experience. Give you an idea of the daily processes, the bell schedule, what the day looks like. We'll talk about the graduation requirements, where you can get all the communications coming from the school. Tricia Morcillo will go through the counseling department, tutoring. We'll talk about the contacts, again, who to reach out to, student involvement. One of the things that I'll tell you is, we know that regardless of the school, if your child has one adult that they feel connected to, and a lot of times, if you can remember to your high school, it may have been a teacher. A lot of times it was a coach, because you start to build a unique relationship with that coach, or it's an advisor or a guidance counselor, someone that you have a lot of conversations with. But if there's one thing I could tell you is try to encourage your son or daughter to get involved, because we know the more they're involved and the more they're here, they'll connect with an adult. And if they connect with at least one adult that's looking out for their success, it's going to totally transcend their view of the school and coming to the school and everything else. We'll give you some dates to remember that are coming up, especially in the fall. We'll talk about some things that may be unique to a high school student, which is attendance. Attendance becomes more critical when you get into the high school, and we'll talk about some of the structures we have in place to make sure that we have a successful school year. Chromebooks, which aren't new, but you're getting a new Chromebook, so if you haven't gotten your Chromebook already, we'll talk about how they can take care of that tomorrow, what you need to have done before they get the Chromebook. And we have some unique programs that just emerged, like our NJIT dual enrollment. So we'll go through that. We'll just give you a brief overview of that. And then again, we'll stick around to answer any questions that you may have. The counseling department, as well as the administrators, will stick around and answer any questions that you have. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Gianna Otto, talk a little bit about what orientation is going to look like tomorrow.
All right. Hello. So our students are going to come in tomorrow at 8 o'clock. They're going to come right in through the front or right in through the auditorium doors where you just came in. Everyone's going to meet in here, and we're just going to do a brief welcome to the building. This is going to be the rundown of the day, expectations, anything that to get them started, introduce them to some of our peer leaders, show their face. This way they kind of have a familiar face to go off of. From there, we'll have... the peer leaders will take them on a tour. Sorry, mix it up. Peer leaders will take them on a tour, show them around the building, show them where the nurse's office is, show them where the gym is, show them where the bathrooms are, the media center, all the hot spots, all the things they care about. Quick overview, and then we're going to kind of release them into the building and have them... Our peer leaders will be out there, our teachers will be out there, but kind of be able to navigate the hallways and find their classrooms on their own. This way they can work with each other, they can go from class to class, they can pop into their classrooms for a couple of minutes, say hello to their teachers, introduce themselves. This way when they come in on Tuesday, they have a familiar face with their teacher, as well as some of our peer leaders in the building, showing them, letting them get to their classrooms on their own. And then we will meet either from 10 to 10:30 in the gym, and or for any questions they have. We'll be there, peer leaders will be there, we'll have some staff there for any question answered that they need answered. If they need to jump in, meet with their counselor for a minute or two, for the questions on that, if they have scheduling questions, as well as this is a great time, if they have not already exchanged their Chromebooks, this is a great time to do that. So when they come, they do need to bring their old Chromebook with them to exchange it for a new Chromebook. They can go to the media center. Our tech support will be there with a new Chromebook for them, and they can kind of just exchange, so they can get that taken care of tomorrow as well. All right, so a typical day at Parsippany Hills, very easy. We come in the building. We have 3 crosswalks out in front. If you haven't noticed, one does have a stop sign, but we do ask, please be advised, especially in the morning, if you're driving your students or picking them up at the end of the day, be aware of all of those crosswalks. Our students do use them very heavily going out to that senior parking lot. All right. As you drop your students off in the morning, you may notice there are going to be 2 lines of cars. One is typically a passing lane, While the others where we drop off, we ask, please have your student get out of the car on the building curbside. We don't want them getting off on the grass side and then crossing, and then it becomes dangerous. All right, so for safety, please have them get out of the car on the building curbside. We do try to keep it flowing very quickly and keep traffic moving. You'll see us out there in the morning. We also have our security guard out there really helping to direct traffic, making sure kids are crossing safely. So just be aware of all of those crosswalks as we come, and then our curbside to drop your students off as you come in. Okay, our bell schedule. This is always a fun one, especially for ninth graders coming up. We do have a regular 8-period day schedule, just kind of like they had at middle school. We very rarely use that 8-period day schedule. We use it sometimes at the end of the marking period if we have certain open days or by our exam schedules, things like that. We do use our 8-period day if we have a pep rally or certain things going on during the day. We use our 8-period day schedule, but more typically, we use our drop block, our daily rotating ABCD days schedule. So we go through block 1, block 2, block 3, unit lunch. Everybody eats lunch at the same time. And then blocks 4, 5, and 6. You say, but that's only 6 periods. We have 8 periods in the day. Because one at the top, if you'll notice, goes 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And then the next day, that period that dropped out, 4, 1, 2, 8, 5, 6. There are posters all over the building that say this. We also have posters all over the building that are specific to the day that it is. Our custodians come in every single day. They change the poster. Today's an A day. They see it as soon as they come in, and they see the schedule. I know a lot of upperclassmen, a lot of students, they actually just take a picture of this, and it's their home screen or it's their lock screen on their phone. So when they come in, oh, it's an A day, and they quick look, they forget, where am I going next? And it's right there on their lock screen. I know this is a very, very familiar lock screen to a lot of students. They will get used to it. I did. All right.
So as they come in the morning, we have, the gentleman that's filming here today, he's on the screen right there. We have a mix of students that will do the morning announcements, and that's part of the project of our TV production class. So they generate the announcements, main office gives them the announcements, and they run that. You can see those on our YouTube, Par Hill's YouTube channel, so if you want to see the morning announcements that we're running every day. So the bell will ring. We'll start the announcements. They'll get their IDs out. They verify that the kids have their IDs on them. We ask that they carry their IDs every day. But it's important because it's pretty much part of their life now. So when they scan in and out of the guidance office, we use something called Turnstile that's in Genesis. So we can look on the screen, and if they're in the media center, if they're at counseling, if they're scanning into one of the offices, we can see them. So it's a regular part of their routine. We'll give them a new ID every year. As soon as they're printed, we'll get them to them in homeroom, and then they're expected to carry it with them every day. They're checked in homeroom every day. We have a backup for them, and we give them 2 IDs. After that one, then there's a charge for any other IDs. But just get them in the routine of doing that. One clever thing that I saw a lot of students doing that is not mandatory, but I'll throw it out there. Some of the students have clear protectors on their phone. And the one thing they're never going to not have on them is their phone. So what they do is they take their ID with the barcode side on it, and then they put it on the back side of their phone so that when they need to scan, they just use that. So that's an easy way to not forget it. So I'm not saying you got to go out and buy a brand new $30 case, but I thought it was a pretty clever idea. So we have the homeroom, we have the morning announcements, we run through anything that day. That's one of our communication methods when we want to inform them of club activities, upcoming events, things like that. Just make sure they're paying attention during the morning announcements. But if they miss it, they can always go back on the YouTube channel and follow that. So they go through, homeroom is during block 1. They go through block 2, 3, and then we, at 10:30, we start unit lunch. So some of the people will be eating lunch. Other people may have science labs that day. So you can see the lab schedule at unit lunch. They would either have lab 1 or lab 2, and they would have that 2 of those blocks in order to eat when they're not in lab. So it's pretty much the whole school other than ones that have science lab. It's 52 minutes. The one thing that we do is protect the instructional time. So when we talk about not having cell phones out from bell to bell, so when the class is in session, the bell rings, the cell phone's got to be away. And then, in passing, during unit lunch, in the morning and the afternoon, they can have their cell phone. Every other time, it's got to be away. So I know it's the same policy. It's the only way they're going to learn. Because if it's not away, they're going to be distracted. So that's one of the conversations after a whole summer of being on their cell phone. That's one of the things you may want to prep them for. But the first 40 minutes after unit lunch, there's no movement. So sometimes we'll be 50 minutes of unit lunch, then they'll walk into block 4 and they're like, you know what, I got to go to the bathroom. No. You had 50 minutes to take care of that. We're in block 4 now. Or, again, if it's an emergency, if your kid's diabetic, we're not going to say, no, you can't go to the nurse. If your son or daughter needs an inhaler or something and they were running around during unit lunch and they got to get out, we're not going to tell them no. But if it's just like I have a headache or, I just want an ass, whatever, no. You need to take care of that during unit lunch, okay? So unless it's an emergency, that's one of the things that we try to do is protect that time. There's a lot of things that go on during unit lunch. It's a great time. Some clubs and activities meet. A lot of teachers hold tutorial during that time. So they can go down, they can grab their lunch, and then they can go to their teacher's classroom, make an appointment with them, and use that unit lunch time as a tutorial time. If they have a club or a sport or something after school, that's a great time to catch up with their teachers. And they're available after school as well. One of the things I want to encourage you to do is we've had a free lunch program the last 2 years. So what I did see is that our free and reduced lunch applications have gone down. And if your son or daughter needs services, just understand that there's services beyond lunch that are part of that free and reduced. So the free lunch program is going away, but if that is a service that you've gotten in the past, I just want to encourage you to make sure that you fill that paperwork out. And I know that Dr. Sargent, when she sent out her district communications, left directions to get those applications in. We have a lot of great things available. So we have clubs, activities. We also have an awesome patio that you walked in on as you came in here. That's one of the eating locations that are available to the students. One of the things that we didn't originally have in 2019 that we kind of added on, especially the young men, not the stereotype, but they like to run around. They like to throw the ball around. So we have tennis courts, and we have that area supervised. So if you left here and walked up the back way up the stairs to the field, you would see kind of a lower field and tennis courts. So we have that area supervised. Generally, we bring some Frisbees out, just to allow them to kind of run, eat their lunch, and kind of run around. It's a great opportunity in the fall. It's a great opportunity in the spring. We still have some hardcore kids that still like to go out there during the coldest parts of winter, but it's fewer and far between. But, we may have 100 kids out there on any given day. It's a great opportunity for them just to get active in the middle of the day. The other great thing that happens is that, and Ms. Morcillo will go over this some more, our counselors are available during unit lunch. So they are generally in classrooms, and they're also running a lot of great programs. A little early for this, but they run scholarship programs. They run college programs. We even have college fairs, and colleges come during unit lunch, and they run college fairs. So there's a lot of great things going on during lunch. They have mindfulness sessions. They have wellness sessions. They have a lot of classes that are offered to your sons and daughters during that 50-minute block. So there's a lot of great programming on at that time as well. So at the end of the day, one of the things I want you to do is we have all these buses lined up. So one thing you can do to help your son or daughter is to make sure that they know which bus they're getting on. I don't know whether it'll be the same or different than the one they had at Brooklawn, but it'll be a different number probably, even if it's the same driver. And obviously for the first few days, we're going to be patient and we're going to walk them to the bus and everything else. I think the tough thing is for like fall athletes, marching band people, whatever. So if they go through the whole fall and they've never taken the bus because they're always staying after school, there'll be like a winter day. And we're just, we're in routine and we're getting on the bus, and we got to get the buses out of there because they got to get to the elementary schools, and there's a domino effect if we're delayed getting out of there. So we try to yell them onto the bus, hey guys, come on, stop talking, we got to get on. And then inevitably in like November, December, you'll have some kids standing there going, I don't know what bus I am. So if they're not taking the bus in the fall, just make sure they know that bus number. It's somewhere on their phone. They know how to access it on Genesis. Or even if you can write yourself a reminder to say, hey, when the winter rolls around, I got to remind my kid, which bus that they're on. all right? But again, the first few days, we're going to be real patient with them. We're going to have the sheets out there with the buses on there, an alphabetical list of all the students. But after they start getting in a routine, it's got to be quicker, and we got to get the buses out of there. So just make sure that you check that dismissal, their AM and their PM bus. Their AM pickup, they'll probably have down. The PM one, they might be not sure of. But we try to keep the buses in the same location every day. Doesn't always work out like that, but most days they're always going to be in the same location. So once they figure that out, they'll be in good shape. Communications. One thing I would tell you is if you're getting the school messengers, and we've sent out a couple already for the freshman class, just make sure it's not going to your spam. Sometimes we get an email or a phone call just saying, like, I didn't receive this information, I didn't receive that information, and we're going, I thought we sent that out. And sometimes it's fallen into your spam folder. So school messenger, every now and then it comes over your phone, but it also goes through your email. Just make sure we're not getting kicked into spam, all right, because there's going to be a lot of important information. The other thing I'm going to just ask that you do is make sure that your son or daughter are checking their email. It is our primary means of communication through Google Classroom. When the counselors want to send your son or daughter a pass, it's going to come through email. When we want to update them about events and things like that, that's going to come through email. Morning announcements as well, but there's going to be a lot of specific information through email. And like I said, we have a lot of great things happening here at the Hills. So whether it's arts, sports, academic achievements, national merit scholarships, and things like that, it's just great to stay updated on all that information. Plus, we'll update you about events coming up and things like that. So whatever you prefer, what I find is everything, parents always kind of find information on Twitter, and young people don't go on Twitter anymore. Twitter's now all of a sudden an older person thing, and the only thing that the kids see is Instagram, and the only thing the adults see is Twitter. Whatever you choose, we're gonna pretty much the same message on both of them. So we'll get that out to you. And Genesis as well. Just make sure your email is updated in Genesis, so that when we send out emails, whether it's through School Messenger or through Genesis, they'll go both avenues. Just make sure the email that's listed in there is still the current email that you check regularly. And I'll turn it over to our coordinator of guidance, Ms. Morcillo.
He's saying it like that because last year he introduced me as the lead custodian. So welcome, everybody. It is true. I don't like a mess. Good evening. My name is Tricia Morcillo, and welcome. And we're happy to have you here and excited that we're all back in person and being able to speak to you like this once again. So first and foremost, my name is Tricia Morcillo. I'm the coordinator of the department, and I also manage a caseload whose students' last names start with A and B, and I am our ESL counselor also. So I'm going to introduce you to my amazing staff, and at the end of this evening, we're kind of just going to break up into 4 little corners, and you can then go to your child's counselor and have an informal Q&A. If you have any questions that you want to ask, we'll give you the opportunity so that you can actually speak to the counselor who will be working with your child for the next 4 years. We operate in the 9 through 12 model, so when we meet your children as freshmen, they will be with us throughout the next 4 years. But what they will start to see is we work very well as a team, and there's a lot of things we will do together as a counseling department. So it doesn't mean if you're assigned to one of the counselors, you can't come and ask me a question, that sort of thing. So Mr. Wooster, he is the counselor for students whose last names begin with C through H. Miss Bouchang, she's the counselor whose last names begin with I through M. Mrs. Barkowskis, students whose last names begin with N through SE. And Mrs. Barrett, students whose last names begin with SF through DZ, and she is our counselor for our MD population. Mr. Delgado is our student assistance counselor, who's not here this evening, but he works very closely with all of us and all of our students. So he will be in the classes. He will be speaking to all of your students about all of the things he does in this building. So he's another familiar face that your kids can see at any time. So Dr. Thompson mentioned it a little bit, but we as counselors, this is one of the reasons why I was a big favor of this new schedule that we went to a couple of years ago, is because that unit lunch now allows students to see their counselor at any time throughout the day. So we have many students who don't like to miss class. We have many students who might not like to come see us. So if your child says, I don't have an opportunity ever, my day is too busy, I can't see my counselor, that's just not true. Every day we are available and assigned to a classroom. So those are our unit lunch classrooms, and your children are invited to see us anytime. They don't have to wait for us to call them down. So all of this information we have posted on our the counseling portion of our school website. So I highly recommend you visit that site often, because there's a lot of good information there about our department specifically. Like Dr. Thompson said, we want to make sure they're checking their emails every day, because we will schedule individual appointments with them. September is a busy time for us to get our seniors ready to apply to college, but it's also an important time for us to meet the freshmen. So early on in September, we will be holding, I think we planned it actually in the 20s somewhere in September, we will be holding 4 freshman seminars, one on each day, A, B, C, D day, during unit lunch, where we're going to meet with the freshmen. They have to come to us. So they will be told about when these freshman seminars are. They're going to report to the auditorium instead of the cafeteria, and we're going to go over all things freshman year. So in September, you can ask your child, did you go to one of those freshman seminars? If it's October 1st and they told you they did not, that means they didn't show up. So how would you know about that? We are going to invite all of your children to our counseling Google Classroom. So just like you're familiar with the Google Classrooms that they've had in the past, English, math, we have one as a counseling department. So my amazing secretaries are back there right now, Mrs. Sagas and Mrs. Diadayan. You're welcome on your way out to stop and see them and actually fill out a short Google form where you want to be invited so you get the summary from our Google Classroom. So for the next 4 years, that's where we post everything. All of our information goes in that counseling Google Classroom. So if I find something out about a summer enrichment, anything, there's things that I'm constantly putting in that Google Classroom. So you won't get the same amount of information as your child, but you can ask your child what was in the counseling Google Classroom, or you will get the weekly summer. Now, freshman year, there's not necessarily as much as you're going to see as you go through the next 4 years, but that's where you're going to start to see all the information that we put out about the colleges and all the visits that we have. So if you want to be part of getting those summaries, you can sign up tonight, or you can sign up at home. On our website, you will see, go under counseling, parent information, and you'll see the form right there. The other thing that your child will use throughout high school is a program called Naviance. Naviance is something that we will introduce to them when we have the freshman seminars. They all have their own Naviance account, and they will know how to get onto that account when we meet with them during the seminar. So Naviance is the tool that they will use to begin to search for their post-graduation plans. When they become a senior, if they're going to apply to college, it's going to be one of the tools that they have to use in that application process. So every year, we will go through different things with them. Freshman seminar, sophomore seminar, junior seminar, up until their senior year. And this is another program that you can also get a parent account on. The way to do that, same thing. If you go to the counseling website and you click on Naviance, you'll see parent sign up. So what we will be doing the next 4 years is making sure your child fulfills the graduation requirements to graduate successfully from Parsippany Hills High School. Every year, your child will sit down with the counselor, usually around January, to map out their schedule for the next coming year. We will make sure they meet all of the requirements in order to graduate. 4 years of English. Every year you're in attendance, you need 1 year of health and PE. They need to take World, US 1, and US 2. They will complete biology, chemistry, and physics, 3 years of mathematics. 1 year of the world language is what the state of New Jersey requires, but if your child is college-bound, we recommend much more than that. And then we'll just make sure they hit everything. 1 year of career ed and life skills, 1 year of visual performing arts, 1 semester of personal finance. They can take AP economics instead of that. And then whatever the state tells us is the state graduation requirement for this particular class. If you paid attention to any of that lately, it's ever changing, so I can't tell you right now I know what the state requirement is going to be for this coming graduation class, but I can tell you we will make sure that they fulfill that.
So one of the things we want you to do, have your children do, is challenge themselves. And if they're challenging themselves, eventually there's going to be a point where maybe they don't fully comprehend things at the end of that 52 minutes, and they're going to need additional help. So where do they go to? Before you have a tutor, I would just say make sure that they're utilizing the time that's available. So the first thing that's available are the teacher office hours. Make sure you check your teacher's Google Classroom. So each teacher will have a Google Classroom. On there, they should have posted somewhere where they typically offer office hours. Some of them may offer it before and after school. Some may be just after school. Many of them offer it during unit lunch. But there's some time where they're going to offer extra help. And I don't think there's really a better source than the teacher themselves to provide that help. So just make sure you understand where it is. Because one of the first things that we did post-COVID and even during COVID to make sure that students successfully completed the course when they were struggling was really just to get the student to make a schedule to show up. And I don't know why, but for some reason, our tutorial numbers kind of dropped off and the students were less likely to walk into the classroom for individual help, and sometimes they needed our help to kind of get them in there. So if they're apprehensive about that and you need help to kind of bridge that gap, reach out to the teacher, reach out to us, to allow that to happen. One of the things that we did last year, which was a great idea, wasn't mine, but it was a great idea, was to have office hour days and we'll maintain this year. And talk about building that relationship. It was a great informal time where we released the students at 11:45, and if they're all caught up and they're fine and they just want to go home and start their homework, that's an option. If they need extra help, then they have 2 hours available to them to stay after school and just use these days to go sit with whatever teachers they want and walk in and get individual help and just walk in and get whatever they need. What we found was those days were helpful in forming relationships, that they could sit down for a prolonged period of time and get some extra help, and then the tutorials started to roll from then on. So we said, okay, maybe we started out with 2 a quarter, and then we moved down to this year, we're saying at some point at 3/4 way through the quarter, we know whether a kid's struggling and we know whether they're going to need that extra help day. And if they do, we'll generally reach out to one of you to say, hey, just make sure your son or daughter's here on this day. And we really want them to get with Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith or whatever. We want to make sure that they get that help. And it's a tremendous opportunity. The other thing it can be used for is an incentive. You owe X, Y, and Z assignments. You don't have to go if I get these in before then. But if I don't, you're going to sit with me and get them done. And for some reason, they always get done if they want to use that day. So if it's an incentive that way and that motivates them to get the work done, so be it, but it's also an opportunity to catch up. So that's something that we've built into the yearly schedule. If, for whatever reason, the student feels more comfortable getting tutored by a peer, again, we have awesome students here helping each other out. Our National Honor Society has multiple students, and that they all are assigned by their strength. So if you have a student that's particularly strong in language arts, they'll just tutor students in language arts and writing and help them with their term paper. And they're available during unit lunch. They're available after school. They just have to reach out to the National Honor Society advisors. They turn it over to the student. The student then coordinates with the other students to make sure they get the help they need. If they're not available during the regularly scheduled times, they'll work with you to find a time when they're available. okay? They're tremendous, and they've been a great asset. So we have the office hour days, we have the teacher's office hours, and we have the NHS tutoring. But again, don't hesitate to reach out if you feel like your son or daughter is not taking advantage of these opportunities. Sometimes they need some guidance to just kind of get into the room, or to just reach out to the National Honor Society people, whatever they feel most comfortable with. Sometimes it's the counselor that's going to help them get there. But if you feel like they're not taking advantage of it, make sure they do it. So who do you contact? You have your school counselors. Ms. Morcello went through them, and all their contact information. If it's something non-academic related, or you just feel like you want to reach out to one of us, feel free. Mr. Keegan is going to have most of the freshmen. He has freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. If your child has an IEP or a 504, Ms. Otto works with the guidance department, the child study team, very closely, and she also has all the students with IEPs and 504s assigned to her, so she can work and coordinate with the child study team. So you can always reach out to them. If it's an attendance issue, something with the way the day was coded, and they said they're absent when they're actually there, you feel there's an error, or you just want to tell them they're going to be out, contact the attendance office. Is probably the best bet. If you think it's just something beyond that, you can always reach out to us. So the dates to remember. September 6th, obviously the first day of school. Please make sure they don't miss that, okay? Freshman Fun Night. Again, our students do an awesome job of making the freshmen feel comfortable in this building. I've never been in a school that had so many transitional activities to help students feel comfortable. So Freshman Fun Night is coordinated by our student council, and they do a great job. They'll run around the upper hallways. They'll have games. They'll organize them into teams. The student council members will be on the team with them, and they do a great job of just keeping them active. And again, it's one more opportunity for them to meet an upperclassman and to have somebody in the hall where they can just grab if they need something. So it's really a way to help them feel part of the school. On September 16th, we're not in school. September 20th, hopefully I'll see you again. That's back to school night. And our peer leaders and student council will be all through the building to help you out. So again, it's that theme of our students really just taking ownership of things. The state announced over the summer that they're continuing with Start Strong assessments. So there's a few days that you'll need to know about. We'll have one day, we'll have an altered schedule, but they'll arrive at the same time and leave at the same time. But we'll test our infrastructure and make sure that we're set for the online testing. And then on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, they'll participate in testing on those days. Those days, if they're not testing, will be a delayed opening. Now, when we do delayed openings, they always have the opportunity to come in on the regular morning bus, and they'll have a study hall if they're not testing that day. And if they are testing, obviously, they just go right to their testing rooms, and then the afternoon, they go through their regular classes. September 22nd and 23rd, we have the underclass photos. So if you have kids like mine, just make sure they're not walking out with their concert t-shirt on that day. All right, just so that you're aware. That is a day where our peer leaders and our peer leader advisors organize an entire day, again, with our upperclassmen, bring them up, have some fun, and then at the end of the day, we have an activity fair where they go down and they meet all the presidents, vice presidents, board members of all these activities, again, just to try to get them familiar, make that initial introduction to all the people that are part of those clubs, and really just get them involved. They can't get involved enough. I really think just to take advantage of everything the school has to offer and really feel connected, really encourage your son or daughter to sign up for at least one club, maybe one sport, one activity, a musical, whatever they're interested in. Just make sure they're not going home at 2:28 every day. Yep. Oh, 26th. Minor error. Thank you for catching that. Will Lanza, that's the beauty of editing, right? We'll get that corrected. Thank you. And that the school website will have all of those updates on there. So when you go onto the homepage, you'll see an updated calendar there. Just make sure you look at that. Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is always nice to see. If you're starting your journey with us tonight and you're first student as a freshman, we're looking forward to the next 4 years together. If you have a student coming back or you have another student going through the building, we're looking forward to starting another chapter of 4 years together. As Dr. Thompson touched upon, I'm going to go into some of the things that we offer for the students as far as clubs, activities, athletics, and during Freshman Fun Day, like Dr. Thompson had mentioned, when the students come down from the fields, it's a great team building experience because what they're doing is they're working with the upperclassmen, going through team building activities. They just have a time to start that community building activity functions. When that is completed, they walk them down from the fields, and weather permitting, out on the patio, if you can imagine a science fair with boards, some people use face paint, confetti, streamers, decorations to try and recruit students to join particular clubs. So they have an opportunity to walk around, meet the upperclassmen, see what types of activities they can get involved in, because one of the things that we feel is very important is that everybody has some kind of avenue to follow. And if we don't, we do our best to point them in the right direction to somebody that may be able to help them, or they have the opportunity to start one on their own. Currently, as it sits right now, everything is listed on the website. We do have, I believe it's 24 varsity sports. We have over 70 clubs. Okay, we have it all. We have Space Club. We have Academic Decathlon. We have Science Club. We have students that meet and talk about finance. Everything that you can imagine, which is why it's important that during that club fair, there's something for everyone. And one of the things that we'll talk about tomorrow with the freshmen, and we'll also talk about with the upperclassmen when they arrive, is a reminder that look at the club list. We have the club list. We have a short description on what that club looks like, those activities that they do, the things that they're involved in. There's charity work, there's events, there's competitions, there's everything you can imagine, because again, we want to have something for everyone. If they look at that club list, they're going to have the advisor on there as well. All of our teachers advise clubs, most of them, and what they can do is they can speak to that teacher, they can read the description, they can talk to them about what that club looks like, if it's a fit for them or not. Out of those 70 clubs, there's usually about 2 to 3 students that come down during the first marking period, and there's just not something for them. Or what they want to do doesn't appear on the list or isn't currently running. We encourage them to start their own. There is a process to do that, but if a club is not for them, they have an opportunity to come down, present things to us. What's the educational purpose? What's it going to look like? You have to find an advisor. It's a lot of work, but it also teaches them to advocate for themselves, and it starts the process of them feeling ownership over their high school experience. So we have no problem with pointing them in the right direction, but if they're not finding what they feel is a good fit for them, we completely and totally support, and we will walk them through the entire process of starting what they feel would be important to the rest of the building. So that's the other thing that we do go over tomorrow, among many other things. And tomorrow is really just a welcome, just so you know. They don't walk in and we hit them with, the rules and regulations and tardies and attendance, and you're expected to, it's a welcome, okay? They're coming into a big building. It's a transition going from middle school to high school. We know that. Tomorrow is a welcome, and we will walk them through the entire process. Okay. I always draw the attendance slide, and it's like every year. Attendance is a little bit different at the high school level if you had students that have come through here than it is at middle school, okay? We have to justify a certain amount of seat time for our attendance rates, okay? So that's why these are not just randomly chosen by us. This is the amount of seat time that the students need to have in order to justify the credit that they receive. So, because of our rotating drop block schedule, there is a period that drops out every day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So that's why they're allowed to have, or they're permitted to have, these total amount of absences per class for the year. So for instance, if you look at the full year classes, it's because they meet for the entire year. They are permitted to have 16 absences for the entire year if they have a full year course. So basically 4 per marking period. If you have PE, which is 3 marking periods, it's only 12. Semester courses, which is a half a year, whether you have them semester 1 or you have them the second half of the year, which is semester 2, you are permitted to have 8 absences. Health, which is only 1 marking period, students are permitted to have 4 absences. The reason that we do give these totals is, like I said, there is a requirement for the amount of seat time a student has in class. So if you go beyond this number of absences, you are in danger of losing credit in that class, which means that you do not receive credit for all of the work that you did. So you'll either, if it's a required class, have to retake it, or you can choose not to if it's an elective, but you will not receive any credit for that class. The tardies is where we often spend a lot of our time meeting with students, calling parents. At 5 tardies is your first warning conversation. We don't like to use the word warning. Let's just call it a meeting. We call the kids down because at 10 tardies is when they will receive a Saturday detention for being late 10 times. And the way tardies work, which is often the most confusing part, is that the tardies become absences. Okay, so if your son or daughter is late to block 1, if it's under 10 minutes, it's a half of an absence for that class. Not the whole day, just that class. If they're late more than 10 minutes, it's a full absence for that class. So sometimes you may look at Genesis, you may check Genesis, and you may think it's inaccurate, and that very well could be. But more often than not, when we have conversations, when we do call home, when we give you a notification, it's they haven't been absent. Say, yeah, but he or she was late 8 times. So that's why it's showing up as absences, because again, it's about the seat time. One thing I can tell you is that Genesis will send you notifications. You will get letters through Genesis that says if your child continues to be absent, they're in danger of losing credit, and we'll often get calls, he's only at 2 absences or she's only at 2 absences. Those are auto-generated, all right, so they send them automatically when the student is absent. What I can promise you is this. You will never get a phone call from any of us that says, hi, it's Chris Keegan from Par Hills. He was absent 16 times. They lost credit. You will hear from us several times before that ever happens. Okay? So if you did not hear from us, I can tell you that your son or daughter is not in danger of losing credit. So it will be a process, and this is why we constantly call the students down. We constantly meet with them. We constantly call you. We want to have an open line of communication so that everyone's on the same page and everybody knows exactly what is going on and where the student stands as far as attendance. There are no excused absences. That's often a question that we do get. So the only days that are excused, and this is according to the New Jersey Department of Education, are NJDOE holidays, which are listed on the website, and the other day that's excused is Bring Your Child to Work Day. So those are the only days that would be excused, okay? And like I said, it's a new experience. The other thing I will tell you before I pass it over to Dr. Thompson is we operate a certain way, and like I said, we're here to help the freshmen get acclimated to the building. So in no way, shape, or form is one of them going to show up at 7:41 on day 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to go, you're tardy, go get a pass, now you're late. They're learning the building, they're learning the procedure. So there is a learning curve that we're going to give them. So we give them time to learn what the expectations are, walk through their schedule a few times, especially with the drop block. And I checked, everyone over there says that they can recite these periods in order. I still haven't memorized them, so when the kids are walking in sometimes it's, well, what period is block one? Check the posters, 'cause I'm still learning. But that's one of the things. We will work with them, I can promise you that, so they'll have a time period, whether it's a full rotation, meaning letting them go through A day, B day, C day, and D day, and then we start marking tardies, or something of that nature, but it will not be a day one thing. We're here to walk them through the process and to continue to work together. So I'll pass it over to Dr. Thompson.
A few things I just want to make you aware of. We've, the STEM pathways, I know they talked about with you when you were at Brooklawn. That's a tremendous opportunity. And if they have an interest in the STEM field, that's a great opportunity. As you start getting through, and as Ms. Morcillo will tell you, early on as a freshman, your schedule's pretty much set. You have a lot of full-year classes. So when Mr. Keegan had the absences up there, many of their classes, most of their classes are going to be full-year classes. And your schedule's pretty much set. As you move on through the years, you're going to have more options, more electives. You're going to start to meet all your graduation requirements, and those options are going to start to open up. One of the things that our science and our math department have done a tremendous job of is begin to partner with NJIT. And if you look at the cost of colleges, which I'm starting to do because I have 2 juniors right now, is the cost of schools and the amount of credit that you want your students to have, your son or daughter to have before they even move into college. And NJIT, through advanced placement programs, you can start to gain that college credit. But we have a great program with a partnership with NJIT where if you're taking a specific math course or a science course, you're taking our course and they've audited our curriculum and said, yes, we will give you NJIT credit for that class that you're taking for high school credit and for college credit. And even if you don't choose to go to NJIT and there's opportunities to get into enrollment for them, you can still, on your transcript, have college-level classes when you apply to other schools that look tremendous. So there's a lot of great opportunities. Not that you got to get bogged down in the details of when do I schedule this, but just know there's a lot of great opportunities for your son or daughter as we move through the curriculum. As we said before, the Chromebooks, if you haven't gotten them already, if you hadn't made it over to TSS, we'd really like to get those in their hands before the first day. If we don't, we'll take care of it on the first day. But as Mrs. Otto said, we need the old device, and you just need to make sure that you get on Genesis and complete all the necessary forms. So if they do plan on getting it tomorrow, just make sure you go through Genesis and make sure that all of those forms are answered before you get there, just so there's no holdup. But again, we would like them to start day one with the device. And believe it or not, I'm starting to experience this. It moves very quickly. So tonight is the start of our partnership to make sure that your son or daughter is successful for the next 4 years. Please don't hesitate to reach out. There's nothing worse to find out, like in March or April, well, this problem's been going along all during the year, and it's really escalated, and I just want to let you know. Let us know early. Let us know if something's happening. Let us know if you're worried that they're not engaged enough, or you want them to be more involved. Our guidance department is tremendous. Our administration is here to help you. Just reach out, all right? And hopefully tonight is, we'll be around to answer any questions you have, but tonight is just the beginning of that relationship over the next 4 years, all right? I know many of you have a football game to get to or a marching band to watch at halftime, so I don't want to hold you from that. But again, Ms. Morcillo, do you want to point them to a corner of the room where each counselor will be?